Back in the mid-2000s, I had just finished my undergraduate. I just come back to Toronto from St. Catharines, and I was starting journalism school. And the thing about journalism school is, no matter what journalists tell you, the work is not hard. They don't give you anything that's actually difficult. There's just a ton of it, right? And everything is easy. They just try and smother you with volume. And they always tell you, you can't have a job during this. You cannot work. You must just do journalism school. But that's not realistic, because those of us who weren't born like a Rockefeller need a job during school. So what I needed to do was I need to figure out what was a job I could do that was going to let me do this sort of endless churn of not particularly difficult but never-ending work. And I found it. And what the job was I worked at an adult video store. Okay, to be perfectly technically accurate, I did not work at an adult video store. I worked at a 3-floor sex emporium. Those of you who are from Toronto know the one I'm referring to. I worked in the porn department. And this isn't actually a story. This is a story mostly about how I quit working at the porn department, but I'll explain to you what life is like working there real quick. So after the first 3 weeks, where it's sort of a mixture of like awe and titillation, it very quickly becomes like any other retail job, right? Everyone is in their sort of early to mid-20s. There's 2 people in their 30s who can tell you how everything was cooler 10 years ago. Everyone's trying to fuck each other all the time. You smoke weed on your break. Your manager's a dick. It's like the difference between sex store and Foot Locker is actually like about that much. But you know, like there are things, right? Every so often you're like pricing a 6-foot-high mountain of dildos and going, what is my life? But there were a number of things that really made the porn department the place to be. The big one for me, obviously, was I had a chair and I could do homework, because the customers wanted very little customer service. Which was the most customer service is, where are your MILFs? They're actually on the pillar straight ahead, sir. Have a lovely afternoon. So sitting, homework, and when I got sick of homework, I had a DVD player and a TV. And that was supposed to be playing porn all the time, but when I was working, it was usually playing The Sopranos and The Wire. And in a sort of through the looking glass moment, I got in trouble constantly for not watching porn at work. But the other thing about the basement, the less cool thing about the basement, was the regulars, because we had guys who would come in, often once a week, sometimes more, and they bought so much pornography that they got a discount just for being them. There were 2 regulars who did not get the discount, who were the guys who came in to go through our remaining dusty VHSs in the back. One was a man named Fabio, who wore very short running shorts. Another guy was a guy we nicknamed the Spitter, because to get the VHS dust off his hands, he would spit on them and rub them together before paying us. Eventually, we gave him wet wipes, and when we couldn't give him wet wipes, we'd just give him a paper towel with some Windex. So here are a few of the regulars, right? There's Paul. Paul has no job but a fair bit of money because he has some sort of slip and fall settlement he's living off of. And what he's done instead of a job is he goes across Toronto from porn store to porn store, going through the new releases every week. Okay? There's Peter North, not his name, the name of his favorite his favorite male performer. Peter North is a grocery store manager in a small town near Barrie and cannot buy porn closer to home because he's too high profile. And so Peter North comes down every other week to the city and buys literally $600 worth of pornography. And his other thing is he wants to watch it with you. He's not jacking it. It's not even that. He's just sitting there watching the porn with you and like narrating it like a horny John Madden. He's just like sort of sitting there going like, oh, look at him. Look at Peter North, man. No one. Oh, he's flipping her over. Yeah, Pete. It would go on sometimes for 90 minutes. There was a prominent local businessman who I will not name because I think he's actually kind of litigious, who would have me call his office and let his secretary know that his special requests would come in. And I was like, do you want me to say where? He's like, just say the video store. Hi, it's Chris from the video store. His special releases, his special requests are in. Which video store? Just the video store. He knows. Click. And then there was Rudy. And Rudy was a genuinely unpleasant man. He was cantankerous. He was sometimes downright verbally abusive. He'd always try and convince you the standard 15% regular discount was 20% for Rudy. No one liked Rudy. Rudy gave us a ton of money, and nobody liked him. He was terrible to be around. So, one day, I'm in the basement, and I think I'm making my way through season 4 of The Wire. And I have some MILFs that I'm casually pricing. And I have a magazine assignment that I'm not working on because it's stressing me out. And I got a call transferred down from the main desk, and I'm like, porn desk, this is Chris. And I got, hey, Chris, it's Rudy. Hey, Rude, what's up? I'm worried. I'm expecting a phone call, and I haven't gotten it. I think my ringer's broken. Could you call me back? Yeah, sure thing. Okay, call him back. Hello? Rude, what's up? It's Chris. Okay, it's working. And I'm sitting here, and I'm going, and like, I kind of going back to The Wire and the MILFs and the magazine, and I'm going, something starts to feel weird, and I can't quite place it. But like I said, I have things to do. I'm not really thinking about it. I go home and, you know, eat dinner, smoke weed, watch the Insomniac basketball game, which is the 10:30 start Clippers, go back, get up, go to school, come back into work, and I'm kind of looking at Rudy's name by the phone, and I'm thinking, what is it? And it occurs to me what's bothering me is, of all the people in the world that Rudy could have phoned to make sure his phone was working, the only person he could think of was the guy who sells him porn who doesn't even like him. And I started to feel like medium fucked up about that, because I realized that my job in my life was at least partially feeding this man's addiction. I've had this conversation with people who are bartenders, who are blackjack dealers. I had it with a Coke dealer once who felt surprisingly weird. That when you have a job that's feeding people's addiction, at some point you got to go, shit, is this really worth it? And so I kind of kept going through my business and starting to figure out, is this really worth it? And you know, the longer I went on, the more I realized I didn't like my job anymore. I used to like watching my coworkers futilely try and fuck each other. I used to like smoking weed at break. I used to love watching The Wire and then having my boss come down and yell at me about how I'm not watching porn. And just the joy was gone. And one day, I just looked around and I was like, I thought about Rudy and I thought about what I want to do with my life. And I said, nah. And I went upstairs and I quit. And so there's no real moral of this story, and it's not an anti-sex thing, it's not an anti-porn thing, it's not an addiction thing, because all those things, everybody has to make their own call, but that's the moral of the story. At some point, you just gotta decide what's right for you.